Welcome back to the Happiness Habitat podcast. I'm here joined by a very special guest today. Not only is she my best friend, but she's also an incredible business leader and my own personal development guru, the one and only Frankie Segal.
That was so sweet. Wow.
I mean, it's true. I feel like all of our conversations that we have, they're always so impactful and they're so meaningful and value driven.
I agree.
That's one of the special things of our friendship, I think.
Yeah, for sure. It just feels super in alignment always.
Always.
And we have so much fun too.
We have so much fun. And I want to also kind of share with everyone. So Frankie and I, we were also roommates for about 4.5 years in our early mid 20s, which I think is such an important pivotal role in an adult's human life, you know, because that's the foundation and shapes who you are. And before we get into that and kind of our triumph and struggles and our lessons through that, I want to just talk on some of our favorite moments together.
Oh my God.
Because it's fun. Like, I don't know, there's so many moments. Like us just being home, dancing, creating videos.
Dance parties.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
You know,
going on walks together, hiking.
Exactly.
Just like laughing. We had so much fun.
It was the best time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something too about, I think, your 20s when you just have that carefree energy, which we still have, right? Obviously, we no longer live together, but we still carry that with us.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to touch on too, like looking back at our 20s, now we're both in our 30s. What are some of the things that you had with you then that you said, okay, we can leave there? And what are some of the things that you've brought with you?
I love that question. Number one is anxiety.
Yeah.
I left that in my 20s. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I still feel anxiety here and there, but I know how to navigate it and manage it a lot better and not let it snowball into a storm.
Yeah, I remember living together, and that is something that you were actively working on, and I got to learn from you through that, and there were so many lessons that I've learned for you. Can you touch on just like how did you deal with anxiety? How did you overcome it, and what was that like experiencing it?
Wow. It was a journey, and there were many things that helped me deal with it. It got to the point where, I mean, you know, like you came in my room one time and I was having such a bad panic attack, and around that time was when I was like, I cannot live this way anymore. Like this is torture and I refuse to let this be my life. So I was just like trying to grab onto anything that I could, that I was like, oh, I hear that this can help. So I was listening to guided meditations, listening to podcasts, just trying to drown out the turbulence in my mind with other positive things. Cause at first it can feel very overwhelming. Like, where do I start? You feel very alone and isolated. And when things aren't working right away, it can feel discouraging too, to stick to those things or know if that's actually going to help you. So I actually started listening to podcasts a lot. I started listening to Jay Shetty at first, and that helped me so much. I also reached out to one of my friends who was starting to do life coaching, and she was, you know, she saw that I was in, just not a not good place.
Yeah.
So she helped me a lot too, in not feeling that to not feel like I was alone in it. Yeah. And just like, don't give up and keep trying all the things, because I promise they will work.
Yeah. I remember too the moments, like I actually saw your evolution and I've loved watching it because it's been so beautiful and it's been so noticeable. And not to say that there was ever like, I could notice that there was turbulence. It's just, we speak every day. We speak so often, especially living together, being together almost 24/7. I get to observe you.
Yeah.
And you have just utilized the things that you've learned to just catapult into this new beautiful version of yourself.
Thank you.
What was it like when you even started noticing that change? And what were some of the practices that you're like, okay, this is working?
I don't know that there was like one specific moment that I noticed a change, because it was so gradual. But I feel like every year just keeps getting better and better. And I feel like right now I'm really reaping the benefits of all the work that I've done, because I just feel so free and grounded and at peace. So I want to say that to say that if you are in a very rough place and you feel absolutely awful, it is 1000% possible for you to get out of that. Nobody is more special than anyone else. Like, people aren't given a certain different magical power that you don't have. It just takes the work sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, we both know someone who is going through a struggle right now and helping them pull them out, right? It's like, how in your ways, you are such an incredible friend too. Like, you're so supportive, such an incredible friend.
You're going to make me cry. I can't.
No, it's just so true. Like, I'm so grateful to have you in my life. You're there for all the people that you love and that are there for you.
Thank you.
And so what is it like? What is it in your beautiful soul or heart that it is that you're just consistently showing up, like even for the people that don't want to change, or the people that you're like, I see this in you, I know it's possible, right? Like, tell me about that in yourself, because I think that's a beautiful thing that people can take away from and bring into their own soul, you know?
Yeah. I think it's just love. And because I've been, like I said, in a very dark place in the past, I know what that feels like, and I know how isolating it can feel. So I feel like I do have these magical powers just like everybody else does. But the fact that I was able to rediscover them, or I'm continuing to discover them, I have this power that I can use to help people. And so if I see someone struggling, I mean, it does take a balance in it too, to not let yourself get caught up in, constantly trying to help people or save people. But I think if I'm able to use my gifts to at least plant a seed in someone, I want to do that.
That's beautiful. I think that's amazing. Excuse me. When we work together as well. Beyond living together, beyond being best friends, we also work together for a gentleman, Dan Fleischman. He's an epic human. And so when we were actually working together too, that's another thing that I really admired about you, was just your craft and your ability to enjoy the pursuits that you were doing. Like, how is it that you're the same thing with what you're doing right now, right? You have your own company, you deal with clients. Like, how do you bring that same energy to a challenging workspace when you're actually dealing with obstacles or things that, can get tough, right?
Yeah. I think staying true to yourself and authentic to yourself, and putting yourself in places, in positions that align with your purpose and what you love doing. I feel like when you're not on the right path, or you're around people or situations that are turbulent or not good for you, you're going to burn out, which I have before. So I've learned from those situations what works for me, what I want to be doing, what I want to be around. And then you just do that.
So speaking of that, like, when you are in those positions, when things are challenging, or when there are obstacles that can be negative, how do you shift that mindset to becoming positive?
That's a good question.
Because you do it almost like there's no negativity. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
Right?
I try to take myself out of it, and I try to not take it personal. And I tell myself that everybody else is having their own experience, perspective, everything on life. Like, they are operating from the traumas that they've been through, their ego, wanting to be loved, wanting to be seen, valued, all of these things. So I kind of see them as like, they're just not there yet.
Yeah.
Evolution wise, or conscious of the way that they're showing up. And I feel like by me still maintaining my peace and my groundedness, I'm helping the situation not escalate into something worse. Because, I mean, you can see it even driving on the street. One person cuts someone else off, then they're honking, then they're screaming. It's this snowball effect. So I feel like whenever, like today, it actually happened when I was driving on the way here. This woman, she got so pissed off driving and started yelling out of the car at me. And then someone else came into her lane. She started yelling at them. And it's just this snowball of negative energy that can take flight. So I feel like by people like us that have that level of awareness, when we're able to see those things and kind of compartmentalize them and still maintain our level of balance, it helps combat that negativity from taking off even more.
Kind of like the infinity loop, or like a wave, you put the energy out there, because everything really is made up of vibrations, right?
Yeah,
like,
we are all one.
Exactly. Yeah.
The karma, everything that's going out is coming out and having a different.
You put out a smile, you smile at someone, more than likely they're going to smile back at you unless they're really deep.
Yeah.
Right? That's the most simple, obvious kind of thing. And so even talking about that, I want to touch on toxicity as well, because I think a lot of people deal with toxic, whether it's habits for too long or people in their life. We were just talking about this yesterday. So I wanted to make sure I brought it up today. And I actually looked up a statistic and I wanted to share. According to the American Psychological Association, people who cut out ties with toxic relationships report 30% improvement in emotional well-being within the first 6 months, right? Like, so that kind of just tells you, and we all know this, toxicity in your life for far too long has such a negative impact to your emotional and physical well-being.
Absolutely.
And we've both dealt with our fair share of toxicity, and everyone has that, whether small, big, it's however you perceive it, you know? So I would love to touch on just like, how do you realize and cut that off? Because not enough people kind of put themselves out of themselves, and it's hard to see sometimes.
Yeah. I feel like I was just thinking about this the other day too. Your body will tell you things a lot sooner than you're willing to admit them consciously, I think. So I think a way to recognize when there's something toxic or out of alignment or not healthy for you is the way that you feel in your body. If you're feeling anxious, if your stomach is turning, if, I don't know, you're sweating, you know, just like you can feel different things happening in your body when you're in situations that aren't good for you.
Also, your hair, your face, like things start showing up. I remember in college, I, 4 my first year, my second year, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take, additional 4 more classes, which is absurd. I was in honors college. And so taking on this weight, I was in a sorority, clubs, everything, trying to maintain a social life. And so I remember I went home for the holidays, and my mom, she got so concerned. She's like, your hair, what happened? And it was like, used to be so thick. It was so thin. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was so stressed consistently that I was just, like, my body was deteriorating.
Yeah.
And then the same thing, I was in a very toxic relationship at one point, and my body started showing me I was breaking. I mean, we were together during that.
I was like, I was in that relationship with you.
You felt that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you get affected. Like, that was an example of a toxic person in your life. Like, for me, a toxic person in my life led in my life for too long. It not only affected me, it affected others. My family members were worried. I wasn't going to family reunions. I remember I missed one that happened like every 5 years, And so for example, for me, when I was in that moment, I felt like I was so in it that I thought I had to stay in it. And I think we all get in our own way sometimes.
Yeah.
Because yes, of course, you can get that easy feeling, but a lot of people, like me at the time, I decided to say, no, maybe I'm here to learn something, right? It's like we manipulate ourselves to thinking this could be good.
Yeah.
It's the same way that happens with like physical abuse or even self-abuse, whatever you're doing. You think you need to be doing this to learn something in life. So it's like, in your view, how is it that you feel? Because I feel like if I was more vulnerable back then with you about what was really happening with me, I might have cut that tie earlier.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're so great at only allowing beautiful things in your life. Like, that is a superpower that you have, and you've worked on it.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
not
you for
like
saying that. It's a journey, but I agree with you. There is a lesson in everything. So I do understand the accountability in that, but it doesn't mean that you need to stay in something. And I think all of our relationships, whether they're toxic, healthy, everything comes into our life to teach us something. And there was something there that you still needed to become aware of and heal that was deep rooted, because we attract relationships based on the way that we feel about ourselves, the way we feel about life, what we are worthy of or what we should receive. But we are all worthy of love and something that's pure and not painful. Like, it shouldn't feel that way.
That's so beautifully said, that we experience what we believe that we should, have in this life, or like what we see ourselves as in this life. It's like, if you see yourself as maybe not enough, maybe you're with someone that also has that in other ways. Yeah. Like, people are always mirrors of you.
Yep. I've been in that for sure. Even, one of my most recent relationships too.
Yeah.
I have grown so much even since then. And you know, I stayed in that. I don't want to say I stayed in that longer than I should have, because I don't want to live my life with regret. Like, there was a reason that I was there.
Right.
I was meant to learn something more. But yeah, I feel like every relationship just teaches you something, and it's important to reflect after each one too. Like, what responsibility and what position did you play in attracting that relationship in the first place, and what else gets to heal so that you can attract something different that's more in alignment with love, pure love in the future.
That's so beautiful. I also want to go even deeper too on this and talk about like who we are now is because of all of the past experiences, actions, and emotions that we've ever experienced before, right? And so you can change your future by changing your now. So everything is always moldable and movable, and you can always evolve, right? And so when you talk about we are mirrors, right? We bring in who we are. That is also a foundation of the past, right? That's why you are bringing that person in. So I want to touch on too, just like your childhood, because it was a beautiful childhood. It was such a beautiful childhood. I am obsessed with your baby photos. Okay, Frankie was a baby model.
I had a lot of fun.
Frankie was a baby model. Let's also put it that way. So you not only did you have a great, beautiful childhood, but you were the cutest thing ever. You had the most beautiful family. And I love how, you know, when we get to hang out, or when I get to hang out with your family, your parents have such a beautiful love. That's something that I look up to so much, you know, like I didn't necessarily have the like over the moon romance with my parents necessarily when I was kids, like the mushy gushy love until I got to
have that really either though.
You didn't have that.
No.
Aren't they like that now?
Yeah. There's been a lot of evolution for
beautiful
my parents as well.
Yeah.
But you know, things can also look a certain way from the outside, but there were a lot of things that I experienced as a kid that, you know, are different than my relationship with my parents now.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of evolution. So I agree. My parents are amazing. I love them so much.
Yeah.
But you know, I did experience some things that I needed to heal as an adult from my childhood.
I think we all have that too.
Oh, totally.
I think every single human has something that they need to either heal from or reflect on, or they learn something from as kids, because just like our parents, like we're all humans for the first time. This is our first time ever being humans. So we have to also, as we get older, we have more sympathy for our parents, saying, I know you were doing your best, you know, and you're also dealing with that struggle. And that's the beautiful thing of what we can do now, which is, you know, they say like break the cycle, you know? So that's something I know I've been always actively doing. I remember my parents, when they got into arguments as kids, which, you know, every parent, they have conflict. Like conflict is actually a beautiful thing. It's the bridge to getting to where you want to go. So conflict is necessary as long as it's productive, constructive, and healthy. And of course, there were some times where I observed as a kid unhealthy conflict.
Yeah.
You know, or just slightly unhealthy. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And my dad would always set me aside and say, hey, Jacqueline, here are some things to pattern away from, and here are some things to pattern after.
Which was interesting because
he knew that we could hear them speaking in the house. So he made sure to say, hey, the way I or your mother said this thing maybe wasn't the best. Here's how we could have improved.
That's amazing.
And it was helpful.
Yeah.
It was definitely helpful.
That is
Alex benefited, I think, way more. Just being younger and more of a sponge.
Yeah. I think you've done such an amazing job, though. And I think that's why we connect on all of these levels. Is you see the things that you love about me, you have too. Like you see yourself.
Right. Dude, I don't know how. I'm so grateful.
Me too.
So lucky.
It's so lucky. We somehow attracted each other in this lifetime. I'm really grateful too.
Yeah. And I want to talk about too, just keeping on the whole childhood thing, because I was just talking to one of my friend's moms about this yesterday. I called her like my second mother growing up. You know, I was at her house all the time, and she would always have the best food, the best experiences. And I said, thank you for creating the best childhood I'll ever have, because it's the only one I'll ever have. Right. And so many of those years and times that spent at her house have created who I am. My mom's like, how come you're so into fashion? How come you turned out like, I'm like, well, my other mom, my second mom. I'm like,
Yeah.
things I decided to take into my life now. What are some of the things that you feel like when you were a child that you took into your adult life and have shaped you today?
I think my ability to have fun and laugh. My mom was so nurturing and thoughtful too. Like the way that she did things for us. As you said, I was a baby model. I was so actually. Beautiful. So my mom, we'd book modeling jobs and we'd have to be down in South Beach at like 6 a.m. So my mom would, I'll get emotional talking about this too because it's so sweet. I love you. Clearly, I love that part about her.
Of course.
She would warm up the car. She'd put the heater on. She'd put this really soft blanket down, put the seats in the back of the car down.
Oh my gosh.
She'd put our socks in the dryer. Like she'd warm everything up for us.
Like, wait, I'm going to cry. That's literally beautiful.
So I feel like my mom taught me how to be so loving and intentional in that way.
Wow.
And take care of people and people you love. So
yeah, that's so
something
beautiful.
that
that's so beautiful. Your mom is she is such a gorgeous, beautiful, I'm not even using the correct words here because of how incredible she is.
Yeah.
But every time I'm around her, I feel so nurtured, so warm.
Yes.
Warm is the correct word. Without her even hugging me, I feel the warmth of her being.
She's so special.
And I know both of your parents too, they practice spirituality together.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Was that a newer thing throughout their adult life as you were growing up, or is that something that's always been there?
It's definitely always been there with my mom specifically. So that was something else that I learned so much from her in that way. She always wanted to instill in us being connected to yourself. And she just had these different kind of like rituals, like not rituals, but like things that she would do with us to make sure that we stayed grounded.
Like what?
I don't know. I feel like she taught us like how to pray and gratitude, even though I didn't know really what it was at the time. Yeah, I just feel like she did her best and she did amazing at teaching me a lot of those things that naturally come to me now. And I think I was kind of normally like that as a kid, but having a mom that was like that too just really amplified it.
I know you meditate now.
Yeah.
You are a spiritual human. Like, as I observe you, we're all spiritual, of course, in our own regard. But how do you connect with spirituality? Like, what is your meaning connected with that?
Connecting to myself. I think the more that we sit with ourselves and remove all of the outside things, oh, I have to have this job. Oh, I have to make this amount of money. Oh, I need to wear this. All of these extra things, social media, peel all of those layers back and sit with yourself. Because when you sit with yourself, you're connecting to yourself. You're connecting to God, the universe, that power, that energy that we're naturally born with that changes as we grow. Like we are born with this spiritual power because we are coming from God and the universe and this amazing place. Like our mom literally created us in their body. But it's like over time we forget that and we lose sight of it because of the outside things. So yeah, I think just coming back to self, peeling back all the extra stuff.
How can one do that? Because I even think I go through waves. Like I've gone through the whole personal development journey of meeting with the somatic energy practitioner, going up to Sedona and doing biocybernaut. Like there's been little things here and there that I've done. But I think for me, the most consistent thing is that I've been inconsistent with connecting to myself like I used to. Like when we lived together, I had my art studio and that was my way to connect with me.
Yeah.
Or
creativity is key to connecting with yourself too. You've done such an amazing job at that. I think about that too, because you're so creative and the universe and connecting to yourself is creativity. You're literally coming from a place of knowing and following your intuition, following what you feel is beautiful and creating something that it's not existing on paper yet. You are literally.
That's such a beautiful way to look at it.
Yeah, it's a portal from the universe, and you are connecting into that, which is yourself. And then you're letting something beautiful come out of that.
That's so beautiful. So genuinely anything that you're creating or creativity is what is spirituality.
Yes.
That's part of it.
Yes.
What are other ways that people can do to connect more with themselves, right? If they're more predominantly logical and they don't cook that much and they're not expressing themselves or dancing, like what are some of the ways you think people can get out of their own way and connect deeper with who they are?
You'd be surprised, even if someone doesn't realize that they might be good at cooking or art, they could actually become more connected to it again. It's just we've moved far away from it for a while. But as a kid, we were all little creative beings. We had our imagination. We would create dances. We'd do art, all these different things. So I think number one, and I just posted something about this the other day, thinking back to your little self, little Jacqueline, what did she feel so lit up about as a child? Take yourself back there. For me, I loved playing outside. I loved being in nature. I loved animals. I would even like pick little worms out of the dirt.
I did roly-polies.
Yes. I just loved being outside and playing. I think I loved art. My sister and I would always make up dances. Like that was so fun to me. And we would just go. Like there was no strategy behind it.
Yeah.
So number one, I think thinking back to things that you loved as a child and trying different things. Maybe I've gotten really into cooking again. I thought I didn't like cooking, but it was because I was operating from a place of, I don't need to waste time going grocery shopping. I don't need to waste time trying to cook or clean up. It's easier for me to just order food. But me slowing down a bit has given me the space to intuitively cook. Like it's been fun for me to try different things and cook something really beautiful and then eat it. Like it's more of a creative thing for me now versus like, oh, I have to cook something just because I need to eat.
What do you mean by slowing down?
I mean, this is a loaded question. So I think about this so much.
I'm glad I asked.
Yeah. So our society and the world that we live in right now teaches us that in order to be successful, we have to go, hustle. Like there can't be a minute in your day that you're not being productive. You have to just grind. And that's not true. We don't need to do that to be successful. So I have slowly realized like I have been grinding for a while. I've been hustling and I haven't felt great. And it feels like it's almost never enough. So it's been a practice trying to take myself out of that world. But I think slowing down and really enjoying moments and being more intentional in the way that you're moving, even if, for a time period you're not making as much money, it's important to do the things that feel really good because those things are going to be sustainable. And I think for a long time I've done things that I thought I should do versus what does Frankie actually want to do? What does she feel so passionate about and connected to? And so I've kind of been going there. And like I said, work it's slowed down quite a bit for me, but this is the most abundant I've ever felt in my life.
That's beautiful.
With the least amount of money that I've had.
Beautiful.
But I know that I get to take this time to give myself the space to create something beautiful that I want to spend the rest of my life doing. Or if I want that to evolve into something else, it can. But I think taking myself a step back from the grind culture and hustling is giving me that space to build a really beautiful life that I will get to the end of my life and be like, wow, I love what I created and I'm not going to have any regrets.
That gave me the chills. That is the most beautiful thing ever. I think, as you said, this hustle culture, this grind culture, just go, go, go. And people, it shows up on their being. It's like they're breaking out. Their eye bags are horrible. They don't look happy. There's not a smile on their face. You can also feel it
in their energy. It's this frantic, uneasy energy. And I can literally spot people's egos and I can see when someone isn't at peace with the way that they're living. And it's not coming from a place of judgment or anything. I actually have compassion for them because I've been there.
Right.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful. I feel like anyone that's listening to this, if you can do anything, take time to just, as you say, just be with yourself, create, enjoy.
Yeah.
I think that's so powerful. We were also just talking about that yesterday, right? It's just, how do you give yourself that space? I want to talk about that. How do you give yourself that space for someone that like you, who is like always go, 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 which you still are in your own way, of course. But how
I'm
do
really
you,
not.
You're not. Well,
I mean, it may seem like I'm go, go, go because I have my set routines that work for me.
Exactly.
I'm also doing 75 hard right now.
We need to talk about that as well.
That's a whole other animal.
That is okay. We're pivot. Okay.
Okay.
Because 75 hard is hard. I've never done it.
It's a challenge.
Yeah. Okay. So what day are you on right now?
50, I think 56 or 57.
And you'll be done October 15th.
Yes.
Okay. The day before my birthday.
Yep.
Okay, everyone who's listening, because this podcast will be out by then. Okay, I'm just kidding. So let's talk about 75 hard, because you say slowing down and feeling the most abundant you've ever felt. How has 75 hard contributed to that?
So it took me some time to even get to the place where I wanted to do it, because Casey's been doing this for a minute. I've seen him do it and I'm like, I would never do that. But like I said, I've gotten to the place where I've slowed down, and I also wanted to stop drinking too, because I know that alcohol impacts my life in a negative way. It gives me anxiety. I feel less motivated, less energetic, all of these things. So it just kind of happened at the perfect time. I was like, this gives me a solid kind of thing that I can stick to, that helps me stop drinking. And I also wanted to cut out processed sugar. There's certain things, and I wanted to start reading. So it just made sense. Walking has been amazing. I feel like walking gives you not only the space to get outside, get some fresh air, some sunlight, move your body, do something that also isn't raising your stress levels, because doing more like harder workouts, like HIIT workouts and things like that, can raise your stress levels. So this is a great way to get cardio and move your body without doing something that's so strenuous. It also helps me flow, and I'll get ideas. I'll even like shoot things because I'm starting to try to share my perspective on things so that I can help people.
Yep.
So sometimes I'll pull my camera out and I'll get an idea, and it gives me the opportunity to flow and let things come out, and also do something that I have been kind of afraid of for a little bit, just like being seen and being on camera like this too. This is out of my comfort zone as well.
That's beautiful though.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
So you're like, yes.
It's exciting, a little nerve-wracking, but it's great. I feel like it's something that this is an area that I want to grow in. And I think just putting myself in these positions, and obviously being here with you, makes it that much easier, because it's not,
and also everyone starts at ground zero, right? Like no one starts at the top, no matter where you come from, how you were raised. You might have more comfortability because you've seen it, but that's also a skill that's been honed or worked on. When you see someone else do something, you're learning. When you do it yourself, you're learning, right?
And it's all a part of the process. Like you get to start where you are, and that's that piece. Like in order to make $1 million, you have to make that first dollar. You have to make that second dollar, the 10,000.
How much more rewarding is that anyway? Right. I would never in my whole life existence want to be handed a silver platter.
Yeah.
That sounds miserable. While yes, if I were handed a silver platter, I think that's incredible. Like, meaning if someone just said, hey, take this business, and it was like a foundation to help people, I'd be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have learned all the things that it took to get there. So how to run a successful company, how to be there for, whatever you're pursuing. And so I think there's something to that, where it's the same thing with 75 hard. You had to start on day 1.
Exactly.
You don't start on day 75 or 74.
Yeah.
And it's that feeling that you have every single day, right? When you end that day of, I put the work in.
I put the work in. Stayed disciplined and stayed with the intention, because it can get challenging. Like some days I'm like, oh my God, I still have half a gallon of water to drink. Or like last night, for example,
That was great.
like, being social and doing other things, it can be challenging to fit in the things that you get to do with 75 hard with the other things. So I got home from being out and I took my butt on the treadmill and read my book.
Frankie sent me a picture of herself in the gym with the book. In the gym with a book at 1:30 a.m.
Crazy.
I'm like, you're a legend.
That's not ideal.
It's not, but you're a legend. No. You did it. You did it. Okay. And you said something too. You said discipline. When you don't want to do something, it's discipline that comes in. Talk to me about discipline, because when someone feels like they say, oh, I have momentum or I am motivated, well, those are not the skills that are going to get you to the end of where you want to be. It's discipline that ultimately gets you there. Because like you said, what if last night, you start 75 hard, you say, I'm so motivated to do this, but as the day goes on, you get less and less motivated because you're more tired. So that's when you need your discipline to come in.
Yeah.
How can one sharpen that tool?
Just takes practice. It takes practice. And I think having a strong why or purpose beneath things, I feel like people talk about this all the time. Like, why are you doing this? Are you doing it just because you saw someone else do it? Or is this something that you genuinely feel connected to and you want to stick to for yourself? And yeah, it's just practicing, like discipline in even small things. If you say you're going to get up and go to the gym in the morning, if you say you're going to do your laundry, these little micro discipline moments, sticking to those and then doing bigger things. Like you just have to do the little things first.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Don't stop.
Keep going. And also, like, if you don't stay disciplined with something, have grace for yourself too. Like, you're human and it's not helpful to be shameful or mad at yourself for not following through with something. Like, start where you are. Even if something happens, you're not going backwards. This is just part of your journey and your process.
Anything that doesn't go right is actually right most of the time, all the time, because it's a lesson. Unless you didn't learn the lesson.
Right.
And then you learn it again in a bigger way.
It's still serving a purpose, because that gets to happen so that things might need to get bad enough feeling so that you can become aware of that and be like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
This is not serving me and I don't feel good.
That's something I admire so much about you. I remember when we did live together, you would come home from these workshops or things that you would attend and share with me what you learned, like some of the simple things where it's like, oh, I have to do my laundry. Well, no, it's I get to do my laundry.
Yeah. Gratitude is a game changer. And same thing, it just takes practice.
Yeah.
But I think in the little ways, like when you're driving your car, wow, I'm grateful that I even have a car. I'm grateful that there's sunlight outside. I'm grateful that I'm breathing fresh air right now. I'm grateful I can walk. I'm grateful I even got out of bed this morning. I'm grateful I can drink water. I have clean water. I'm safe. Like there's so many little moments in life that we can find gratitude in every second. It doesn't have to be these grand things. And I think the more we're grateful for all of these little moments, the more the bigger moments get to happen too.
One of the things that I've recently been attaching to gratitude is romance. And so I have been more now than ever romanticizing my life with myself, just in the things that I do, right? Like while I'm cooking, I have the music on, and it's not like anything's changed. It's not like I now have music on. I've always had beautiful jazz music on when I cook, but it's about how I think about it. Like I just it's a feeling. It's almost like it's a blanket of like a romance on me while I'm doing something. Same thing. I was taking a bath, and because I had the romance intention, I was like, I'm lighting candles. I'm bringing, my hummus and cucumbers.
Were they in the tub with you?
They were on the side.
Okay.
They were on the side.
Did you dip them?
Like I had Epsom salt.
Let me just grab some bubbles.
I had salt. I wanted a little extra salty hummus,
Ew.
No, but it's something that, when I finally got in the bath, I'm like, this is so amazing.
Because you made it that way.
Yeah.
Like you can look at things, you can have two completely different perspectives on something, and it just takes one shift to live this luxurious life.
Right.
And it's the feeling that comes before the actual reality or things that are outside of you. Starts with the feeling. And I think it can be a challenging thing to master, but I think once you start creating that, it's fun.
It's so fun. Like, I'm romanticizing this podcast. It's beautiful. We have flowers. It's wonderful. It's gorgeous.
You've always been so good at that.
Oh, thank you. Like, in the book, in Happiness Habitat, I talk about you're auditing your environment, because I think too, having to do with, yes, you can romanticize anything, no matter where you are, what's around you, but it's also about, and we kind of touched on this, what you allow in your life, whether that's physical, on social media, right, digital, those kind of things too, those can help. What are some of the things that you've noticed that you're like, let me bring these items in to my home, and I think these items can no longer be in my home?
Are you talking about physical?
Physical, digital, emotional, because a lot of the times we can surround ourselves and let things build up, whether it's clutter.
Yeah.
Which there are studies that have been proven to show that when you have clutter around you, you actually feel a little more chaotic.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, it's a reflection also of what's going on inside.
Right.
And I think when you walk into your home and things are just everywhere, or there's a mess, it's not going to feel good. Like, your environment has to feel the way that you want to feel too. So I think like even having little things like flowers, or like you said, having music. Sometimes I'll play like high frequency music too. I like every single night too. I'll put on a YouTube video so that overnight I'm listening to subliminals.
No way.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah.
So you just leave it on the whole night?
I leave it on the entire night.
How do you wake up? What do you feel?
I feel peaceful.
Feel great.
Yeah. I feel amazing. Yeah.
That's so cool. I do 2 fans. I'm like, hopefully those are good frequencies. Like,
yeah. I mean, whatever works.
Whatever works.
Yeah, definitely the clutter though, organization, letting go of things that are taking up space.
You're so good at that.
I know.
No.
I feel like when we lived together,
Hold
I was like,
I
need to organize.
I was a little oopsie doopsie with that sometimes. I was like, well, this piece of art I've had, or this glass. I'm like, this beautiful mug. I'm like, not a mug, but things like, you're like, what is it doing? How is it serving you in your life?
Yeah. Sometimes things are just, collecting dust or taking up space. So recognizing when that's happening, like, does something actually bring you joy or make you feel good? Or is it just something that you're holding on to coming from a place of lack or fear of, oh, am I going to miss this?
That's something that you've really actually impacted me with. So much so that Casey's even worried. He's like, I think I have to hide this or it might get thrown out.
Yeah.
He's like, this box, I wanted to hold onto the box. I'm like, but it's cardboard.
Right.
Why are we holding on to it?
We have a beautiful box that's already in the closet.
So
Yeah. So I think having that awareness too, like even cleaning out your closet, doing things like that. Like, am I holding on to things that I never wear and they're just sitting there? Because it's very representative of, if you want blessings and abundance to come into your life, there has to be space for them. And if your space is filled with items, things, feelings, emotions, habits that are taking up space and aren't serving you in a healthy way, you're holding that space from letting those things come in that you do want.
That's good. I definitely learned that from you, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
You open up a cupboard, it's nice and organized. There's
I know.
no
You've
clutter.
done such a great job. I love it.
Thanks to you. Thanks to you.
I love that. But you also have a lot of amazing things like art and books and your sewing machine.
I do. I need a sewing room.
I know.
I would love one. It's
Yeah.
gonna happen. We'll get back to sewing some things,
Yeah.
Why not?
It's just balance.
It's just balance. I want to touch on wellness as well, because I think that goes hand in hand, right? You're so great at just living a very mindful, but also a wellness lifestyle. Like, yes, of course, you're on 75 hard journey right now, but you've always incorporated wellness practices into your life, whether that's meditation, healthy food, making sure you're outside, grounding yourself. What are some of the other practices that you have found have really helped you to create a better, more enjoyable wellness type of lifestyle?
Being mindful of the type of content and things that you're consuming outside of food and all of these things. What are my thoughts? What type of music am I listening to? Am I watching the news? Am I on social media a lot? Making sure that the majority of the things that you are digesting mentally and spiritually are healthy. feel like that's a big one.
That's a really big one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm very cautious about the music.
I know you are. And like
she says, I know.
Yeah. And that's something that I learned from you too. Like you just listen to such peaceful, jazzy, beautiful music. And I used to listen to hip hop music, which I still do.
Yeah.
But I think there is a lot of toxicity and negativity that can be in music sometimes. Mm-hmm. And just being mindful of everything that you're consuming carries energy. And if your mind is feeling turbulent, if you're having negative thoughts, if you're not feeling great, I would say take a look at what you are consuming and doing your best to replace it with healthier things. So I started listening to podcasts a lot more from people that were talking about topics that I wanted to work on or learn about, listening to more positive music, maybe not even listening to music, listening to guided meditations. Like I said, listening to the overnight video, like kind of subliminal things that can talk about manifestation. There's listening to affirmations, being aware of your thoughts too, and retraining your brain to tell yourself something different if they're not healthy.
Retraining your brain. That's a big one.
Yeah.
And it takes work. A lot of humans go through a life never retraining their brain, never training their brain.
Yeah.
It's like, you have one shot at this.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
And it's possible for you to make your life the best that it can possibly be. Mm-hmm. And so I think step 1 is knowing that. And then step 2 is doing the work to retrain your brain or create new habits that can help you get to that place.
The coolest thing about abundance is that in the word abundant, right? Like infinity, there is always room to grow. Mm-hmm. Think of space, so much black matter. There is so much room for everyone.
There's so much space around us. There's so much space in our bodies.
There's so much room for every single human on this earth to get exactly what they want. It's going to take everyone their own beautiful, hard, incredible journey, but it can be done.
It can, absolutely. And nobody is, like I said before, no one is born with superpowers that someone else doesn't have. We are all born with this power. And it's possible for you to get back to that and take away the comparing yourself to where someone else is in their journey, because that is so not helpful. And just knowing that it's possible for yourself, you just get to do the work. Just how it's taken work for people who are struggling to get to the place that they are mentally. It's that constant repetitiveness of negativity that teaches us that, oh, this is the way of life. This is how I operate. These are my habits. This is how I feel. It takes time to completely rewire that.
Yeah, it does take time. And I think, just looking at where we both started in life, where anyone has started in life to where we are now, it's like those things that got us to be here, whether they were tough, creative, not whatever it was, it just, like we said earlier, it just feels that much better.
Yeah. And I want to reiterate too, however this is sounding right now, it sounds very amazing and peaceful and grounded, but I want anybody watching to know that I did not come from this place. I was in a really, really bad place mentally. I was very depressed. I was beyond anxious. I felt like I was in a deep, dark hole that I didn't know how to get out of. Mm-hmm. I felt very alone. I was scared. I also had a panic attack one time that I thought I was actually going to die. Like I swore, my mind just took me and I was like, oh, this is like, I'm going to die right here. That's a whole other shebang story, because that was very traumatic for me to go through, but it was necessary to show me that something needed to change. But yeah, so I just wanted to say that, to say it is possible for you to get out of a really bad place that you're in and get to a place that feels really amazing. Like I'm talking, my bank account was negative. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pay rent this month when we were living together.
Wow.
And
I would have never known.
Yeah. Because I was holding everything in and I was terrified. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be homeless.
I always got you.
Of course. But for anyone who's been in that position, like,
of course,
it's such a scary, shameful place to be in.
Yeah.
It can feel very isolating and embarrassing and just absolutely awful. But it is possible to get out of that. And it's possible to come from that and come from, you know, feeling a lot of pain and fear and get to a place where life feels amazing and abundant and peaceful, and you are able to get that joy back and enjoy life.
You know, pain's often an indicator. It's like, you know, your car, right? If there's an engine light on, that is an indicator something needs to be worked on. And when it is, it's going to be fresh, brand new, great. Same thing. Like you had an indicator.
Oh, wow. It was
an catastrophic indicator.
Screaming in my face.
What was that like going? I do want to touch on that because I do feel like every human has their own, they go through pain. How would you have dealt with that differently, knowing what you know now? Or what was something that you really valued from that moment that you're like, obviously, of course, you're so grateful for all of the things that happened since then, considering where you are now. But in that moment, when you're sitting there and you are having the worst panic attack of your life, unsure about life, what is going to happen.
Wow. Yeah.
How did you know that something's going to get better? Because a lot of people in life, they might sit with that and let that continue to dwell.
Yeah. I think in that moment, I didn't have that knowing that it was going to get better. I just knew something needed to change. I knew that I didn't die. So that was at least something that I could be grateful for, because it was this crazy knowing. I was like, this is what someone feels like right before they cross over. Like I felt myself going. Wow. It was the craziest thing.
Where were you?
I was driving.
That was okay, because you did tell me about.
I was driving.
The car.
I was coming home from work. It was nighttime, and I'm driving on the highway, and there were 18-wheelers next to me, and all of a sudden, I just got this like sudden feeling of like, I can't even put it into words, but I just felt a lot of heat and like shoo in my ears, and I couldn't hear. And I think I had a conversation with my mom around that time. And my mom said to me, people oftentimes know when their soul is finished here on earth.
Wow.
Crazy. So it was already on my mind. And so in that moment, whatever happened in my body, in my mind, in my soul, told me it was like, this is what people feel. This is it. And these 18-wheelers were next to me, and I was like, oh my God, something's about to happen. Like I had such a knowing in my soul, and I couldn't breathe. It was like insane. And I was going like 70 something miles an hour on the highway. So I'm literally shaking. And it was already like midnight at that point. I called my sister, and her friend answered the phone, and her friend's so sweet, but she goes, "Hey, Frank." And I'm literally like, I didn't say this to her, but I in my mind, I was like, I'm about to die. Wow. It's crazy. Yeah. But so I was like, hey, can you put my sister on the phone? And wow.
That's hard.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good because it's like, you know, it's good to feel emotion and sometimes go back to things, and there's clearly something still there for me. And also I have a lot of gratitude that didn't happen. But I was really scared. So my sister gets on the phone, and I didn't want to tell her that I was going to die, but I just said to her, I was like, I feel like something's about to happen to me.
Take your time.
Yeah.
And it didn't. You're here.
Right.
You're here.
Unless this is all a dream. Yeah, I just said to her, I was like, I feel like something's about to happen to me, and I just wanted to tell you. She said, where are you? I was like, I'm driving right now. I'm just really scared. And coincidentally, my mom was also like, she was in South Florida at the time where I grew up, and she was calling my sister at the exact same time.
Oh, wow.
And my sister was like, Franks, you're going to be okay. Just pull over. And I was like, I can't pull over. If I pull over, that's where something's going to happen.
Right.
And she's like, well, mom's calling me right now. I'm going to tell her to call you. It's all going to be okay. I love you. So my mom called me. And she just kind of like talked me through it my whole way home. She's like, just breathe. It's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. Yeah. And I made it home. Nothing happened, but that was just such a pivotal moment for me. Like a huge wake up call. It's time for something to change. Like you cannot continue to live this way. And you have to do whatever you have to do because this is not what your life is going to be.
Right.
And from there, I think I spoke to like a medium after that, one of my mom's friends. And she did this like channeling thing. I don't remember exactly what it was, but you know, I just tried different things. I was like, okay, I just gotta get myself out of bed. Cause some mornings I'd wake up and be like, I can't even get out of bed. But it just takes the knowing that it's possible and connecting to content or people that have done the work, that are sharing wisdom, that have had different experiences that can give you guidance in those kinds of ways. And just making sure that your mind is already filled with so much negativity when you get to that point. So making sure that whatever you're adding on top of it is going to be positive and, you know, kind of counteract all that's going on.
We as humans, we are predominantly, we have more negative thoughts and we actually have positive ones. Mm-hmm. And the more we can observe those thoughts, or at least train ourselves, right? That comes with like the retraining to bring in that positivity. Mm-hmm. The more we have those positive thoughts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's almost like that was the indicator of like, I need to go get this fixed.
For sure. And it's been a journey. It's not an overnight thing. It takes time. It takes
how many years has that been?
I was probably 20. I'm 32 now. So that was maybe I was like 24 when that happened. 20. Yeah, maybe like 25. Wow. When did we live together? I'm like, it's a blur.
We lived together, I think, from 2017 to 2020. Or 26, the end of 2016 to 2020.
Okay, so maybe that was like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a journey. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes consistency, but you can do it. Everyone can do this and everyone can bring themselves back to themselves.
Okay, so I have a question too. So how can, for people, when you were dealing with that, is there a way that, for example, I could have showed up better for you in that moment, or people that love you could have showed up more, right? Because I think like when you have family members or loved ones that you care that are going through struggle or pain, it can sometimes feel awkward or you're unsure how to best help someone. Like in that moment, what is it that you needed most from others? If you wanted anything from others, maybe you didn't, maybe, you know, everything that happened was perfect, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think because I was going to say being present and letting someone know that they're not alone. Mm-hmm. I think also communicating about anything, being vulnerable. I think when we're able to, like right now, I'm being vulnerable about an experience that I had and showing that it's not all rainbows and butterflies makes it a lot more relatable to someone who may be struggling, because it's like, oh, I see where this person is now, or, you know, they're talking about where they are, but they can relate to me because they've been in a dark place before and they were able to pull themselves out. Mm-hmm. I think you did such an amazing job of bringing so much positivity and light and fun.
I'm glad I could at least be that part.
No, you were amazing. But, you know, I think we were in two different places. We absolutely were. And we were navigating our own journey and things that we were going through. But I think your positivity and love and just the light that you bring to everything around you showed me what's possible too.
That's a beautiful way to look at it.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful, that brings me almost, that's so beautiful.
Yeah. So I think not dimming your light either. Yeah. Letting people know that it's possible to love their life and just be a ball of joy and light.
Yeah. I'm so grateful for just where you are now, and also, you know, how that has evolved from there. Mm-hmm. Because
it's crazy. Like it feels like two different lives.
But look all this beautiful like knowledge and information that you're able to share with others to now help, you know?
Yeah.
Like, of course, no one wants to go have panic attacks or anxiety or those type of things. But if you can utilize and you do go through those moments to actually be a vessel for others,
Yeah.
that's so impactful.
Absolutely.
You've done such a beautiful job
Thank you.
of just showing up not only for yourself, but for all the other people that you're around too. And before I wrap this up, I want to just, you know, this is the Happiness Habitat podcast. I want to know, what's your definition of happiness?
Waking up every day and loving your life and just feeling so at peace internally.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, for everyone listening on the show, you've just heard an abundance of mechanisms and tools and ways that you can feel fulfilled in your own life. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Awesome.
This is beautiful. We could talk forever.
So much.
I think there needs to be like a part two.
Yeah,
I think there is.
Let's
Where can everyone find you and learn more about what you're doing and just check you out?
Yeah, at Frankie Segal on Instagram. I don't post a ton on my page, but I'm going to start doing it a bit more here and there.
But when you do,
I post really amazing things on my story that inspire me, and I hope give other people inspiration as well and help them feel that they're not alone and that they can create a better life for themselves.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for being on the show. I love you. And thank you everyone for tuning into this episode of Happiness Habitat. I'll see you next time.